Yeah, right. I'm just a spiritual person, but it's kind of like yeah, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. It was a book that I read recently. But the point I was gonna make, actually, I was gonna bring this up. Basically, there's a point in the book. Basically, it's about this guy who, you know, he's in college and he runs into this this service station attendant who basically becomes his mentor, and he knows him only as Socrates. He jokingly calls him Socrates, and that's just what he calls him. But anyway, he makes a point to him one day, and he basically says, got him. He basically asks him a question. He's like, "Where are you?" And he goes, "Well, I'm in California." "Where's California?" "California's in the United States." "Where's the United States?" "In the world." And he asks him so on and so forth until he goes, "Well, you know, the world is in the universe." "Okay, where's the universe?" And he's like, "Well, you see, that's the thing, is you have absolutely no idea about the universe. You don't understand the universe, and you have absolutely no idea, really, in actuality, where you are. And that's why I'm a humorous fool and you're a serious jackass. Because you're so serious about shit that you don't even understand, and I don't even really, you know, attempt to believe that. I don't attempt to pretend that I know everything, because I fucking don't, and neither do any of you. We're all just on this spherical ball of earth, this spherical ball of water and dirt and other things, and we're just kind of drifting through time, just here to kind of see what happens next, you know?
Yeah, knowing is just half the, you know, knowing is this.
But, well, it's kind of like this, like, I don't mean to cut you off real quick. The symbol for my channel is the Vitruvian Man, right? From Leonardo da Vinci. And if you guys don't know anything about da Vinci, basically the reason why he made it, he found certain things about the human body. Number one was that you could fit it into a square and a circle. And number two was that basically the human body was completely proportionately and mathematically relevant within itself. So in other words, for example, like, did you guys know that your elbow, the distance between your wrist and your elbow is the length of your foot, for example, right? So there's certain measurements within the body that make it relevant within itself. Your wingspan, if you stretch your arms out, the distance from one arm to the other, end to end, is actually your height. So you kind of get an idea there that there's definitely, you know, some design there, it seems, right? It seems that there's some design there, and Da Vinci believed that the human body was a representation of the workings of the entire universe. Now, some might think that that's a little bit extreme, but I also happen to think that because we're still learning about the human body, logic would tell me that if we're still learning about the human body, then we're most certainly still learning about the world, and thus the universe in turn, right? But yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying that even you know, even if we even if we were to know things, I think the real big change comes from people, that the doers, basically. And I think that,
like, opportunities or what?
Just doing, just moving, or not moving if necessary. You know, in a sense, to me, it doesn't really matter how much somebody knows or they don't know. To me, it matters how they conduct themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, how they move and through life, and how they react to things or not react to things, and what kind of relationships they enter and how they enter them, and what part they play in those. And
so character.
It's just a more complex overall look.
Someone's character.
So, yeah, it just something a more you know, more depth, I suppose. So I definitely encourage and urge people to, you know, instead of just knowing things, they should for all intents and purposes also try to walk the walk, kind of. Where if you say, you know, if you're so against injustice, then you should take things in your hands and do something. And I know it's not fair.
Like, be the change that you want to see.
I can understand.
In the world, yeah, Mahatma Gandhi. So, you know, going back to the whole, well, do we know a lot, or how ignorant we are? Yes, we are stupidly ignorant. Yes, there's an awful lot we'll probably never know. And I'm all about it. I'm actually, you know, to me that's not a problem. Knowledge was never a problem to me. And how much people know or don't. To me, it's how people act and what they do that bothers me. If you know, if it's ill-informed, for example, it bothers me a lot. Yeah. So to me, it's not a problem that, you know, whether somebody knows global warming is a thing or not. To me, it worries me that people that actually can do something about it and do things about it and have an effect on it prefer not to do the quote unquote the right thing.
So if I don't waste food and I recycle and I'm very efficient with gas, and you're okay with me?
I told you that the last time as well.
No,
yeah,
I know. I'm
told
just joking, and it's just you know.
You were doing better than I am at that, even though, again, you know, I'm of the opinion that we have a responsibility.
It's not just you and me talking. I mean, it's a broadcast, so you know.
Yeah.
But it's just a joke. I know you know the answer, but I'm just kind of joking.
The thing is, you know, I've always been a firm believer of responsibility, and I think we have one towards not just ourselves but humanity and the world. You know? We have a responsibility because now we know everything's tied together, everything kind of goes together. And
well, I feel like certain things are just a distraction. Like the problems that are really the major problems are not talked about, and then the problems that aren't really big problems are talked about. That makes sense?
That's because it's, you know, again, people's attention can be stretched only so far. Like you get top 10 trending, and that's what people consume on a daily basis. You know, there's like a trending list on Facebook. So some people just go through the trending list and they hardly go beyond that.
Because they feel an inner desire to go like, oh man, everyone else likes this, that means I should too.
Curious. I mean, even I
or maybe
sometimes
they want to feel connected, or I'm a gamma dude. I don't give a shit about it. I give a shit about people. I just don't care what they're doing.
I suppose it's curiosity, but unfortunately, that sort of energy exertion is wasteful. But isn't most of what we do. And so, you know, as a firm believer in universal responsibility towards life, moral responsibility towards life, I don't do nearly as much as I know. Again, time and again, knowing things and being firmly for or against something, if you don't act, if you don't do, then it hardly matters.
It's just like I've kind of talked to you about before. It's kind of like the way I look at certain things, it's almost like going through lines of code, and then I'm kind of like, that doesn't go there. It's kind of like what I told you about people wanting to bring in refugees, but that are not vetted, that we cannot vet because there's no information on them. But then if I go to the airport, I have to go through a naked body scanner and get my genitals felt up, right? Or patted down or whatever. And then people are okay with both of those things. And, you know, it's like George Orwell with the book 1984. He came out with the idea, the actual scientific term is cognitive dissonance. And George Orwell's term was doublethink, where basically it's when you accept two contradicting statements or theories that cannot coexist with each other, which would make them, that's what makes them contradictory. So I can't accept, like, it's just kind of like, that's just what I've always done naturally long before excuse me, I ever learned about Orwell. You know, it's just a thing I do. But basically, I don't know. It's kind of like I can't accept. I don't think that anyone like I don't think that the government thinks that global warming is a big problem if the government is shutting down whole food stores, or if they're raiding organic food stores, just in general. Because that's something that's actually happened here, and I wouldn't expect you to know that, but
No,
That's actually happened,
not
like,
heard
out
of it.
in California, I believe it was, where, like, they sent in, like, a frickin' SWAT team to, like, confiscate all their shit that was non-GMO. And that's because that's the thing, because you have these companies like Monsanto that dominate the GMO market. And it's kind of like, yeah, you can save the world, but you got to do it with us. You gotta like the government wants you to save the world, quote unquote, but they also want you to do it on their terms. You know what I mean? Hint, hint. If you know what I mean, you know, if you know what's good for you, you know, like you know what I mean.
You're interfering with other people's interests, of course.
Like Henry Ford, you can have any color car you want as long as you want black. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, then there's not really much of a fucking choice there, is there? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the whole. That's just kind of what I'm getting at, you know.
Yeah. No. It makes. I know what you're saying. It does make perfect sense, and it does ring of ignorance and injustice for sure. Absolutely.
Am I squad leader again?
But
Okay, no.
yeah, I think that when all is said and done, I think that just people should remember that we have just because we know we have a moral responsibility, and that's on us. But we don't have to. Like we don't actually have to act upon it. Again, we can let it all burn. Nobody will judge us really.
Well,
except for ourselves.
what we've done so far is really just made shit worse. A lot of it.
Well, there's also
so
good
at the very least, right? But there's good and bad, which means that at the best, I mean, we're looking at what, maybe a zero sum. You know what I mean?
It will get better, but it won't be anytime
Well,
soon.
here's the thing. This is the other thing about it, and this is one thing that I understand that a lot of people in the scientific community don't. Because this is the thing. I'm introverted, but I also understand people. Okay, and a lot of people in the scientific community are not. Okay, like it's just that simple. They don't necessarily understand, like, because I also look at the macro level of things, you know, and on the big scale. On the one hand, you can have a global cause for something and nobody can go against you because a global cause is always noble, right? But then again, I mean, what about the United Nations? Like, we like to think of them as being a noble cause. But there's also kind of a lot of fucked up shit that goes on within the UN, right? Can we agree on that? Like, I don't know, letting people get raped and murdered in the Congo, like 30 miles from not even 30 miles from a UN headquarters. You know what I mean? Like an organization that is completely, you know, supposedly completely about helping people and doing all these other things and doing humanitarian efforts and, you know, just gonna let people get raped and murdered like 30 miles away. You know, with the budget, I mean, fuck, like the United States pays, I believe, over 25% of the UN's budget, you know, alone.
That's a lot of money.
Well, it's not fair, and that's what, you know, Trump is currently talking about with them. Like, look, other countries aren't paying their fair share. Like, it's fine if you want to have an alliance, right? But I just don't see the point anymore. I don't. You know, we're not. Shit. Hang on.
Look at you killing people.
What?
Look at you killing people. You're doing well.
Like a fuckload of people rushing us. Shit.
We have a lost Alpha.
But the whole thing with the global warming idea, it's kind of like what I talked about with, let's say transhumanism, where, well, Raymond Kurzweil is predicting by 2029 that we'll actually have merged man with machine. And we'll start getting upgrades, if you want to call them that. The thing is, it's just like feminism. Feminism originally was like the feminist movement. I mean, it was sold under good pretenses, and I'm not saying that women back then weren't getting screwed over, because they were. But just because something is wrong, just because there's something wrong with something, doesn't mean that